For all the latest from the world of motoring, hit that subscribe button and stay connected. The KTM Duke 390 was a game-changing motorcycle for India. Immediately after its launch, suddenly everybody was playing catch-up to match its incredible performance and value for money. Kunal brought home his updated Duke 390 in July 2017 and is here with us today to share his ownership experience.
Hi Kunal, it's great to have you here. So the 390 has almost reached a legendary status all across the world, and nothing quite can match the price to power ratio that it offers. How did you zero on this machine, and how's your experience been so far with it?
So initially when I decided to buy the bike, I had the BMW G310R and the Duke in mind.
Okay.
So basically I found out that the BMW would take a pretty long time to launch the bike.
They showed it at both auto expos,
Yes.
Still not yet here.
Yeah, a lot of information on the news and expo and all, but there was nothing that was sure about coming into the market and all. So the only choice that I had was the Duke. And I had a pretty good idea about the older Duke because I used to ride my French bike a lot, and I used to have taken it on a very long trip and all. So I thought of going on a test ride and deciding whether to buy a used old Duke or the new bike itself.
Okay.
And so once I had the test drive on the new Duke, as soon as I sat on the bike, I could feel the difference, and it was more comfortable, it was more refined, and it was an overall improvement from the previous model.
Okay.
So this was something I really liked, and I decided to go with the new bike itself.
Now the older Duke is known for its aggressive nature, but also its snatchy nature in terms of throttle on off. How's your experience been with it?
So the old Duke was already a great bike, and I was really surprised how KTM could top that and bring in a much refined and comfortable bike compared to the older one. And the old bike had a very snatchy throttle response, and the suspension was very firm, and the bike was basically very physical and aggressive to ride. So when it comes to the new model, this has been resolved because of the ride-by-wire throttle, which has made the throttle response much more smoother, and the rolling throttle response is very good. So and it's not abrupt.
So it must be much more easy in the city.
It's kind of much easier in the city, especially in the lower gears when you are in bumper-to-bumper traffic.
Okay.
So that's one thing which is very much improved compared to the old bike. So one of the major concerns of the old Duke was the heating issue.
Okay.
But on the new bike, the heating is much more controlled, but you still feel the heat a bit in bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's because of the silencer which comes right beside the...
Yeah, the pipe.
So the bent pipe is
right next to
right next to your leg, and that is one of the main reasons why you feel the heat. But in moving traffic, you don't feel much. But only when you are stuck in signals and bumper to bumper
the heat
traffic,
builds up.
The heat builds up, and you can feel it a bit. So all this time during the winter, when I owned the bike, the temperature was pretty low, and I couldn't feel much of the heating issues. But coming to the summer days now, I can feel the heat a bit, but not as much as compared to the older Duke because of the newer improved radiator fan and better radiator.
And out on the highway, how does the bike perform?
So in the highway, it's really good. So the main thing that you feel is the comfort because of the new seat, and the power delivery and constant speed that you can maintain on the highway is very good. So the cruise speed is around 115 kilometers per hour, 115 to 120, and the engine is very relaxed, and it makes the ride much more comfortable compared to the older one.
And how about the efficiency in city and on the highways?
Okay, so by my experience in the city, I've got a mileage of around 25 kilometers per liter. And on the highway, if I'm not ripping, then I get around 30 kilometers.
That's at the cruising speed.
That's at the cruising speed. Yes.
Now the handling and braking of the Duke has been one of its strongest points, and you're in a good position to compare between the old and the new one. So how is it different on this bike?
So braking and handling are the main areas where KTM concentrated to improve on the new bike.
Okay.
And they have a new suspension on the bike, both at the front and the back. And they have a bigger disc, which is a 320 disc,
Okay.
compared to the older one, which was 300 And the rider triangle, this rider seating triangle is also improved a bit because the older Duke was very uncomfortable for taller riders like me.
Okay.
But the new one is very comfortable, and owing to the new seat,
Okay.
which is very soft compared to the older one.
Okay.
So long rides are much more easier on your bump.
Okay, I believe there's some changes to the triple clamp as well. How?
Yes, so they had a very rigid triple clamp, which was very thick in the older one.
Okay.
So to improve the feeling and to make it less physical to ride, they have thinned the triple clamp a bit and
Okay.
made it lighter, so that
Okay.
it flexes more and you get better feel from the road.
Okay.
So, and the flickability, this also results in an improvement in the flickability of the bike.
Okay.
So I've taken the bike on a lot of twisty roads and all, and that's the place where the bike is the most happy, and it inspires a lot of confidence because of the new handling features of the bike. And I would really like to explore the performance of this bike when it comes to handling on a track, which I'm itching to go to, but haven't found the time yet for it. And I'm sure that this will be a great bike on the track because of its handling characteristics and the braking performance.
But how about the tires? They have a lower rated tires now, right?
Yes, so the lower rated tires have not much difference compared to the old one,
Okay.
because the grip levels are pretty much the same, and it comes with the same soft compound rubber which was used on the older higher rated Mercedes.
So in terms of the previous version, how is this in terms of in terms of the, like you said, you went to twisties and everything.
Yes.
So how is it to turn into?
Yeah, so the older bike was more physical, and it would tire you trying to manhandle the bike in the twisties,
Okay.
where you couldn't flick the bike around very easily or lean the bike into throw the bike into the corners.
Okay.
But the new bike is kind of very telepathic, and you think where you want to go and the bike
Does
goes
it?
there.
Okay.
And it's very forgiving. But the only thing I experienced is I changed the tires from Mercedes to the new MRFs, and the grip level is pretty low, and it kind of takes away the confidence edge from the riding experience.
Okay.
So the braking performance on this bike is very good compared to the old one. So owing to the bigger disc, that is a 320 disc, and the sintered pads which are standard on the new 390,
Okay.
the braking performance is very good compared to the old one. It's very sharp, the initial bite is very good, and it is very progressive. And the ABS is also very less intrusive, and it kicks in only when it is really necessary,
Okay.
only when the tire starts slipping.
Okay.
And that inspires a lot of confidence when you are braking or entering a corner, and you can brake in a lot later compared to the older bike.
Okay.
So that is one of the major improvements. And owing to the huge braking force, the main thing that you feel is a lot of pressure on the handlebars while riding in city conditions in bumper to bumper traffic.
Okay.
And changing the handlebar angle a bit towards you
Okay.
improves the feeling of the bike, and because in the stock condition the handlebars are very forward faced, and your hands are all locked straight.
Yeah. So your
Yeah.
elbows are pointing.
So you can't
outside.
make small changes in direction, and that decreasing the angle bit and pulling the handlebar towards you a little bit helps a lot
So
in
it basically loosens up your arms a bit.
loosens up your arms,
a
and
bit.
it makes it much easier to
Okay.
ride in traffic conditions. So to speak a bit more specifically about the suspension, the new bike is much more front biased compared to the older one,
Okay.
and the new improved shocks give a very good feedback, and the front tire seems to be very well planted while braking and while entering corners,
Okay.
and that gives you very good confidence. Coming to the rear shock, the stock preload setting is very low, and by my experience I like to keep the preload a bit higher on the back,
Okay.
and that makes the front a bit more stable, and it is very good for city riding conditions with bumpy roads and humps
Okay.
and bumps.
Now we started off by talking about the price to power ratio, the great value that it offers in terms of that. But how about running the bike, and what are the maintenance and running costs of this motorcycle?
So I've clocked over 10,000 kilometers on the bike already. I've taken this bike around a lot of places in Karnataka like Hampi, Chikmagalur, Gokarna, and a lot of places in Kerala
A
also.
lot of places in
Yeah.
1 year, less than a year, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of places in less than a year. So it's been 8 months and I've already clocked 10,000 kilometers. So I've been riding it a lot. And during my riding experience, I haven't faced any major issues, but I've heard a lot of people have some issues with the software and the lighting, which goes off in between, and some ECU error which comes up. But luckily I've never faced any issues like that. And the only things that I've changed on the bike till now is the rear tire, which lasted for around 8,500 kilometers.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the regular life of a Metzeler tire, which comes with the Duke. And I went with the MRF tires because I just wanted to test out how the performance is, because I mostly ride it in the city and go on long tours.
Okay.
So the Metzelers are pretty good for track, and yeah. So if you are
for highway touring, probably it wears out too fast.
Yes. So you would be spending a lot on the Metzelers for simply without making use of the performance it offers.
Okay.
Yeah. And coming to the cost of the bike, the service cost of the bike, the service costs are pretty similar to the old model.
Okay.
And you don't see much difference in the service cost. But coming to the brakes, the sintered brake pads are very expensive.
Okay.
So the sintered brake pads cost you around $1,700.
Okay. I think the previous ones was like 300, 200.
Previous ones were around 300, 400 bucks.
Okay.
And the other change is the X-ring chain, which is new for this bike. Okay. And the cost of the chain sprocket set is also very high, and it comes up to around 2,900 bucks, whereas the older one was much cheaper.
Now I can already see you've done some minor changes around the bike. So what do you suggest any other changes or any modifications to make the ownership experience better?
Yeah, so coming to the parts that I've added to the bike, the first is the windscreen.
Okay.
So when it comes to long rides in the highways and all, the wind blast is pretty high on the stock without the windscreen.
Okay.
And with the windscreen, the wind blast is considerably reduced, and it makes your ride much more comfortable.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's really tiring without the windscreen.
Okay.
And I also do not like the look of the bike without the windscreen, because the holder for the LCD screen is kind of weird, and it kind of leaves a negative gap over there.
Okay.
And the windscreen covers it up and makes the lines of the bike look
much better.
good.
Okay.
Yeah. And I really like the look of the bike with the windscreen. So the second thing I've added is a brake protector. So this was something that I bought from AliExpress, and it kind of gives a cool look to the bike, and everyone is pretty curious about what it is used for. And I have fork sliders on the front, and at the rear I have a tail tidy, which I custom designed. Okay. And it's very similar to the RNG tail tidy which you get, but I got mine made for like $600 or something.
Okay. Okay, Kunal, thank you so much for being here and sharing your ownership experience. I wish you a lot of great miles ahead.
Thanks a lot, Evan. I've had a great experience with the bike till now, and the only thing I would expect more from KTM is a good service support.
Okay.
Because my experience with service has not been 100% till now.
So guys, the updated Duke 390 is a much better motorcycle and a lot more fun to ride. If you have any questions, do ask them below, and please do subscribe to our channel.